NASA is hell-bent on getting every bit of information necessary to study Mars and know what best should be done to make it a human-friendly environment, perhaps in the next 10 years. NASA's Spirit rover, not actually the immortal Spirit that we cannot see, but an incredible rover NASA sent to move on Mars, has done an excellent job by making a strange discovery that got NASA scientists perplexed. After all, humans on Earth live far away from planet Mars, but since Mars looks empty and spacious, we humans think of making good use of it to our advantage. We got curious and now have a huge interest in making Mars our next home. Today we'll discuss how NASA's Spirit rover adventure began, the devil it had to fight with on its way to Mars, the challenges it overcame, and finally, the shocking discoveries it had made since 2003. Stick to the end of this video as we dig out the most exciting scene. What exactly is the purpose of Mars rovers? Well, let's give you the best answer. Simple vehicles designed especially for use on the Martian surface are called rovers. Rovers offer several benefits over stationary landers, including exploring a larger area, being guided to interesting things, positioning themselves in sunny area to stay warm during the winter, and increasing our understanding of handling small robotic vehicles. As a great workhouse, Spirit operated for 6 years, 2 months and 19 days, more than 25 times longer than it was designed to last. The Mars Exploration Rover mission of NASA is represented by 2 rovers, Spirit and Opportunity. NASA gave up trying to reach the stranded rover on May 25, 2011, and it deemed its mission successful. Since March 2010, the rover has been silent, without transmitting any signals. On June 10, 2003, Spirit was first launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. The spacecraft was sent to a 28.5-degree inclination around intermediate parking orbit at a distance of around 296,000 miles, that is 776,206 kilometers. Each rover is around the size of a golf cart and 7 times heavier than the Sojourner rover that was launched on the Mars Pathfinder to Mars mission in 1996, weighing it at 405 pounds. Spirit and Opportunity were deployed to areas on the opposite side of Mars where it was thought that liquid water may have once existed. The rovers were designed to move from one place to another on Mars and do geological research, take pictures using mast-mounted cameras that offer 360-degree stereoscopic views of the surrounding area. A robotic arm carried a trio of equipment known as the magnets, MI and RAT, the Instrument Deployment Device or IDD. The devices would be placed and turned on by the arm immediately on the ground or rocks. To show how serious we are about dominating Mars, as of May 2021, 6 successful robotically operated Mars rovers had been launched on the Martian surface. By the date of Mars landing, the first 5 rovers were Opportunity, launched in 2004 but lived until 2018, Spirit, launched in 2004 and survived until 2010, Curiosity, launched in 2010, and Perseverance, launched in 2021. They were all operated by the American NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. The 6th, Zhurong, was established in 2021 and is controlled by the China National Space Administration. The names of the 4 NASA rovers, Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity and Perseverance, represent various phases of Martian exploration. We had to first summon the will to move, but once we did, an opportunity presented itself and we were inquisitive, which is why we persevered. So in a nutshell, this is the ideal meaning of all NASA's rovers currently moving on Mars. The fact that we can now send robots to planets of millions of kilometers away and have them send pictures back to us is pretty remarkable. And within a short while, we'll all be alive to witness humans land on the planet in this lifetime. That would be a dream come true. Spirit has 2 120-degree HAZ-cams for seeing its surroundings, a tiny thermal emission spectrometer for studying rocks and detecting their origins, and panoramic and navigational cameras. The rover's arm was equipped with a rock abrasion tool, a microscopic imager, magnets for collecting dust, an alpha particle X-ray spectrometer, and a Mossbauer spectrometer for studying the composition of rocks and soils. Landing on Mars is a very technical adventure to achieve. Only high-end tech engineers can build crafts that will successfully land on Mars without getting destroyed. A spacecraft must perform EDL, meaning entry, descent, and landing, to land on Mars, a method that uses merely a heat shield, a parachute, some thrusters, and an airbag to reduce the speed of the spacecraft to 0 km/h on the Martian surface. It takes 6 minutes for any spacecraft that adopts this technology to successfully land on Mars. The name given to this scenario is the 6 minutes of terror because it occurs so fast and is influenced by many factors. The heat shield on Spirit reached a temperature of 1600 degrees Celsius as it flew towards the Martian surface, yet the vessel's interior stayed at an average temperature. The parachute opened after Spirit's load to about Mach 2 throttle at the height of 4 to 5 miles above the Martian surface. The lower heat shield of the aeroshell was launched after 30 seconds. 10 seconds later, as the rover sped toward the planet's surface, it started to unroll a cable at 70 meters per second. This is just a glimpse of how difficult it is to land any spacecraft on Mars. Spirit rolled out onto the surface of its new home, Mars, once the airbag had settled and began capturing panoramic pictures to aid NASA scientists in identifying prospective geological targets. Mars Global Surveyor and 2001 Mars Odyssey, 2 spacecraft orbiting above the surface of Mars, were used to send the photographs. 4 PanCam photographs, high and 3 wide, were combined to create a full-size image with a resolution of 4000 by 3000 pixels for the first pictures that Spirit captured. 13 filter wheels allowed for the formation of pictures in various wavelengths, and these separate images were captured in black and white. The hills Spirit rover investigated on Mars include Raymond Hill, Husband Hill, McCool Hill, Charla Hill, Brown Hill, Anderson Hill, and Brown Hill. A target for the lander was a circular depression that became known as a Sleepy Hollow because of its potential to shed light on Mars's core. The landing site, surrounded by the hills mentioned earlier and natural features, earned the moniker Columbia Memorial Station in memory of the Space Shuttle Columbia accident, which claimed the lives of 7 astronauts, a very pathetic incident that happened. Spirit got busy right away by investigating the Sleep Hollow crater, which is barely 12 meters from the lander and 9 meters wide. But before long, something appeared to have the potential to completely destroy the mission. NASA's Deep Space Network unexpectedly lost all communication with Spirit on January 21, 2004. And it left NASA's team perplexed. The next day, they heard a sound across the network indicating only one thing. Spirit was still receiving communications, but had been diagnosed as being a failure mode and rarely responding to orders. This was a major problem, but it could be fixed easily if a software bug or a memory corruption caused it rather than a hardware problem. When the crew ordered Spirit to transmit engineering data, they learned that a fault in the rover's sleep mode had led to a battery wastage and overheating, issues that, if not resolved right away, might kill Spirit. This was made more difficult when Spirit refused the team's order to shut down Damn It Until on Sol 20, which sought to halt its operations. A guess for the rover's fault was that it was caught in an endless reboot process. Spirit was built to reboot if it detected a fault, but if that fault happened while Spirit was rebooting, Spirit would reboot forever. The researchers employed a design feature that allowed the rover to boot without using the flash memory after determining that the problem was in the memory, effectively ending the robot cycle. In addition, they found that Spirit's file system had an excessive number of files, which interfered with Spirit's functions. Fortunately, most of these files were unnecessary in-flight data that could be erased, which was done right afterward. Even the complete flash memory system was reformatted. Guess you wouldn't wait to hear the earth-shaking outcome? Spirit was back online and free to explore Mars's surface on February 6th. However, after having crossed space, passed through Mars's atmosphere and endured the landing and was a severe failure, its journey had only barely begun. What technology can NASA engineers use to fix the problem that Spirit encounters on Mars? The Boring Company is also doing their best to achieve Mars colonization, but is that the key to SpaceX Mars colony? Click on the video to know more.